Hey, GLP-1 plus size community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Hey everyone, before we dive in, I really want to share something personal with you. About, I want to say like 8 to 10 months ago, after losing 100 pounds on GLP-1s and keeping it off for a long time, I started regaining out of nowhere, and I was terrified. But I also started having hot flashes and bouts of crying and snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. unable to go back to sleep. It turns out I was in perimenopause. So I started hormone replacement therapy, which is also called HRT, through a telehealth called Winona that specializes in this. And it changed everything. And now I'm sleeping better. And my hot flashes are all but gone, thank God. And I feel like myself again. And it turns out that you can actually start perimenopause as early as 35. And well, I'm 46 and she's here. HRT has really come a long way and there's just no need to suffer anymore. So if you're like this and you're in the same boat, you can check out buywinona.com and you can use the link in our link tree to save some money.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper. With results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster. Confidence higher. Price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not.
To season 3 3 of the Plus Size Podcast. La, 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 la. How is everybody doing today? Grand, I hope.
Doing
Getting
good.
caffeinated.
Getting the coffee. That's right.
Caffeinated.
Coffee time.
I've had 2 coffees already. Is that bad?
Yeah.
Probably bad.
I have had one and I would like another. But it is
Fair.
yesterday was injection day. So I went from being like, oh, I'm really hungry to going, you know.
Please make that expression again, Kim.
Like mostly mindful eating choices. But I did already have my coffee and I may have another because of that pumpkin spice one, you know?
So good. It's so good.
Is it that Premier Protein pumpkin spice?
Yeah, it's super. I don't really like Premier Protein usually, but this pumpkin spice one is the bomb.
I like the coffee one. I put
However,
an extra
protein. If you would like to advertise on this podcast, we are open.
Premier Protein, Devotion.
We're
Gold.
down.
We're down.
Fairlife, whatever.
Right.
Come for it. Come for us, please.
We got to keep it going.
Exactly.
Anyway, yay. So today is going to be a little bit different, ladies. We are going to have on a special guest, someone who's actually gone viral that we've seen a lot in our community. So we're excited to have him. And we're going to kind of just talk about all things GLP-1 and obesity and stuff like that, especially around perception and the struggles of people being able to get their medicine. Because I say it all the time, I simplify it, sick people need medicine, period, right? So we're going to talk about that today. Mm-hmm. And then the girls and I will likely run our mouths a little, but we have Lydia on today, who people who follow us, obviously, and are diehards know that Lydia helps with us with social and editing, and she's like extraordinaire, all the things, right?
Oh,
Yes.
Yes. And so she's going to be in with us today. A lot of times this season, with all the growth that we've had and the other opportunities we've had to continue to spread the word and be a part, both Janine and I specifically have been asked to be a part of changing and advising on how our community is treated in healthcare, which is incredible, like that we can be a part of that at all. And so because of that, we may not all be on every episode. So we're going to have swapsies, and we appreciate your patience and kindness and know that it's because we're doing good things and we're doing advocacy. I want to invite in our guest without further ado, and we'll go from there. Okay.
What do you think when you hear people, going on like that and sourcing Ozempic?
So I absolutely understand why people do. They're desperate. They're desperate for treatment. They're not getting the treatment that they need and deserve, because in so many places in Ireland, obesity is not recognised as a chronic disease. It's not treated as a chronic disease like we treat hypertension and asthma and COPD, whereas this is a very real and treatable medical condition.
Why is it not treated the same across the country?
Because of lack of awareness, lack of knowledge about the complexity, about the dysregulation of appetite, the genetic links, about the neurochemistry of what's going on, about the environmental factors that influence weight. People are told all you need to do is eat less and move more. And with due respect to somebody with an eating disorder, that's like telling somebody with anorexia to just eat more. Like, it's a gross oversimplification. It's absolutely stigmatizing. Telling somebody who's got an issue with obesity to eat less and move more is like telling somebody with depression to cheer up. It doesn't work. Blaming them, shaming them, backing them into a corner. People want treatment. They deserve treatment. They need treatment. They come to me and you listen to their story and you listen to the effect that excess weight is having on their everyday life. And there's a difference between, balking against diet culture and this kind of idea of the perfect body and what's being promoted. There's a difference between getting rid of that, and we should be discouraging dieting because that is disordered eating, it is unhealthy, it is not sustainable long term, and it is not a treatment for excess weight.
Well, hello, Dr. Mick Crotty. How are you doing?
Good afternoon from Ireland, or I think good morning for you guys. So I
Yes,
appreciate you switching everything up and doing it early for my really incredible, awkward time difference that we have.
No, it's okay.
It's not too bad.
It's easier when we have on like UK, right? Because just the time difference is not too bad. We had to adjust then too. But this is a worldwide issue, so it's important, I think, that we talk about it from all different perspectives. So we're so glad to have you. So for people that don't know you, I would really like for you to share with us a little bit about who you are and how you help people.
Yeah, so Mick Crotty is my name. I'm a GP, we call it here in Ireland. A general practitioner or family medicine specialist is my background. I went to university here in Dublin, did a few years of study there, specialized in surgery initially, but then got sense and decided to switch to family medicine. Worked in family medicine for a few years, and now I've transitioned to obesity medicine, which is my kind of passion and specialty. I was living in Ireland and moved to Canada for a few years, so the Canadians disrupted me and corrupted me and got me more interested in obesity medicine before then coming back to Ireland. So now I run a community-based medical weight management clinic here in Dublin. So we see people all over Ireland. Because we're the only clinic of its type in Ireland, specializing in obesity in the community. There's other kind of surgical clinics in hospitals, but we're the only community-based clinic. So we're trying to drive things forward here. But again, I think meeting a lot of the same challenges and barriers that people in other parts of the world are experiencing.
Yeah. I think it's definitely something we've seen everywhere, right? And then we for sure have had from a global perspective, we have to fix it. We have to fix it.
Yeah, and I think again that's the value of podcasts like this and spreading good information, because there's so much shit out there. There's so much terrible information and misinformation. Yes. Anybody who has an account can say whatever they want. So I suppose that's one of the challenges I see when people come and see me, is that we're dispelling myths, we're trying to clean things up as far as misinformation, and I suppose share an understanding with people of what the science and evidence tells us, because there's a huge gap between what we're conditioned to think in society versus what the science and the evidence says. So I think a lot of that is sharing an understanding with my patients of those things, and listening to their lived experience, and I suppose understanding how and why, understanding the biology of obesity explains their lived experience, which is a major benefit, because it helps people understand why this isn't their fault, why this isn't an issue with willpower or motivation, why it's much more complicated as far as why they're living with obesity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Quick pause here. I've had moments on my GLP-1 journey where insurance changes or rising costs forced me to look for a new provider. And honestly, that process can feel very overwhelming. But that's why the Plus Sides podcast is partnered with GLP Winner to give our subscribers a resource to help them make that decision easier. GLP Winner is a comparison platform that lets you explore telehealth providers in all 50 states, whether you're looking for brand name medications or compounded options. You can see pricing up front, read reviews, and get a clear picture of which provider might align best with your needs. Check it out today at glpwinner.com/plus-sides. That's glpwinner.com/plus-sides. Don't forget the Z. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m., and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast, because obviously many of our listeners are going through this same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource, because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need.
"20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise." That's the power of GLP-1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP-1s is possible through Ro.
I thank you for being that kind of doctor, because so many of us just don't have that. So many of us, I'm sure, again, worldwide, not just here in America, we have doctors who they don't listen, or they don't care to listen, and they sort of just go with their like general training of like, okay, let's put you on a diet and just move your body a little bit more and you'll be better.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for being that kind of doctor that just hears people out and is interested in trying to sort of change the narrative and make the outsiders sort of understand what we're all going through.
The normies.
The normies, exactly.
The non-metabolic issue people.
I think I suppose I'm probably like the born again doctor. I've probably fallen into every hole that a doctor could as far as stigmatizing and being biased against patients. Because again, I wasn't aware of the science. I wasn't aware of the evidence. I didn't learn about this stuff in medical school. I didn't learn about it in my surgical training or my family medicine training. It's only something I came to kind of myself in kind of external education that I came across. So I think that's why, there's such a lack of knowledge and awareness of the science and the evidence that in healthcare, many people are just promoting the views that are seen in society. Telling people to go to diet clubs or to go on diets or cut out kind of, certain macros. That's the opinion of society. And we're seeing that in healthcare as well. Whereas actually kind of, supporting people and treating people, often isn't happening. We're not having the conversations. And I think there's many reasons why we're not having conversations, but lack of knowledge and awareness is a huge thing. I think a lot of doctors are worried, about offending people by bringing up the conversation about weight. I think, there's a huge lack of, certainly in Ireland, we have a lack of time and resources. We're usually putting out fires. Somebody comes to us with an acute issue and you're kind of treating that. Whereas actually kind of, having a conversation about kind of some of these more general health can be challenging. But I think for me, because this is education I came to kind of later in my career, it's profound. I think for me, it helped me understanding the biology of kind of weight regulation, appetite, helped me understand my own experience. And that's how I kind of became interested in this area, is that, I had been on the diets, I had done all, and I think that's why a lot of people get into this area, is that they have experienced kind of, I'm relatively smart. I've been to university. I understand nutrition to a point. Why in the name of Christ can I not regulate my weight?
Right.
And that's the frustration I see every single day in clinic. I have people who are incredibly successful people. Like, they've knocked it out of the park academically, professionally, in sports. Like, they're absolutely winning in so many areas of life. And they're frustrated and pissed off. Why can't I manage my weight? Like, I'm intelligent, I'm motivated, I'm dedicated. Why is that not working to regulate my weight? And when you talk to them, like, it's because it's biological. It's because it's not something within your conscious control. They kind of go, oh, well, actually, that makes a lot of sense. And then when you say, okay, this is what we mean by saying it's biological, and we go into it, people kind of get it. But the frustration, if somebody ever tries to tell me that a person living with obesity doesn't have motivation, dedication, willpower, like, I'm in danger of swinging for them, because when you see the batshit crazy stuff people do to lose weight, the misery-inducing, horrendous stuff people do to lose weight, like, these people are the most motivated, dedicated, people you come across. But that's not solving their biology.
No, right. I can honestly say that you just described me. So, full disclosure. Since we didn't do intros and explain. So I've been on GLP-1s since July of last year. I've lost 95 pounds. I'm still losing, which is blowing my mind. I'm literally the size I was in high school because I have genetic obesity, like, it runs in my family. And of course, there's always things that contribute to that, like trauma and things like that, right, in life. And also our just complete trash food in this country. But I am incredibly successful. Like, if you were to look at me, you would be like, she's killing it. That's exactly what I have amazing friends and a kick-ass career and amazing family and a beautiful son. And people say I'm a wonderful mother. But I always thought to myself, I get upset when I say sorry, but I always thought to myself that none of it really mattered because I couldn't control my food. I just couldn't. I couldn't control it. And it was horrible, because it was like, how does that, I was always trying to remind myself of the value of these things, but it seemed so, like, the words I would use is like to talk to myself is just, that's so pathetic. That's so pathetic that you can't even control how you eat or what you eat, or that you stick with a diet, or that you stick with an exercise routine. And then as soon as I started treating the biology, all those things fell into place for me. And the amount of of capacity, all those things that were untapped, right? I was able to apply to my life in other ways, to now where I do brand stuff, and I do, obesity advocacy, and I have a podcast, and, I have a platform on, TikTok and all the places, and people email us and tell us all the time how much this means to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all because I treated the biology, and all that became unlocked. And so it's very difficult. And I know for us on here, when we see people who don't know that, it is painful. And it almost keeps me up at night because of the false narratives that are out there. And so I want more people to hear that, because it's like you said, most people have tried everything and they're willing to do anything because they just want to feel of value and they just want to be healthy,
Yeah,
So
sometimes your
thank you
doctor
for saying that. It's so nice to hear that. And I'm sorry I got
I'm very good at
every
making
time.
people
It's
cry.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm really good at making people cry. It's been my talent in life. So my wife calls me.
I'm sorry.
Don't take it personal. She's an emotional Nelly. It's okay.
I really am.
I feel like all of us, like, since, we think we've all kind of touched on that, Janine included as well, that, since sort of unlocking that key to like fixing the biology issue has like opened, it's like, yeah, you're going to be more emotional because it's almost like it opens up your mentality more or something, like gives you more room to like work on that stuff or something. I don't know the science behind it, but I know that once I really started losing weight and feeling better in my body and like just being able to move around more and be more active because I lost the weight, like I've lost over 100 pounds. I'm more mentally clear.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way to explain it, but
I don't either. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the inflammation reduction. I can't help. We should totally talk about that. Like in general, the inflammation, like being
I remember
gone.
when you switched to Mounjaro and you said, wow. So just so you know, Dr. Crotty, she's been on all of them, literally all of them. Okay. And so when she switched from Ozempic to Mounjaro, like, what was it? Maybe 2 weeks. And you're like, Lydia, my inflammation.
I actually felt it immediately right here. Like I almost had tingling. Like when your foot is kind of like waking up, you know what I mean? From feeling just the reduction in inflammation, which is, I just can't help but wonder, like, obviously like inflammation is, not good. Like, so it's like, so, I mean, obviously we would love to talk about that, but, before I keep going, Lydia, you do have like, questions, and I do, absolutely.
So
I need you over there.
So my big question, so the thing that, the way that I found you was months ago, like, I'm a little social stalker. So I saw your interview with, was it MTV News Ireland, and you guys were talking about people just becoming very desperate and sort of sourcing Ozempic from like very subpar sources, and like that they were doing it because of, just being desperate to treat themselves, right? And so my question really was, like, we've seen it here in America where like people are now, instead of going to like a general practitioner like yourself, or going to a specialist, or, an obesity specialist, going to like med spas, or like we've even had people come to us in our lives and say that they're buying it off Etsy. Okay. Buying it off. It's very intense. And so we're starting to see that here. Do you feel like you guys still see that in Ireland just as prevalent now, or do you feel like it's getting better?
Yeah, I think treatment in general is very, very difficult to access here for lots of different reasons. I think, again, finding healthcare practitioners who have an understanding of it, who are open to talking about it, is one issue. Accessing kind of life treatments, whether it is nutrition therapy, psychological interventions, kind of is very challenging. Medications here, we don't have as many medications as you guys have in the States. We're a piddly little market on the edge of Europe, and we don't get prioritized for a lot of stuff. So what we have available is less. It's all paid for out of pocket. We don't have the same kind of insurance situation you guys have in the States, so people pay out of pocket. So there's a huge inequity where people who have money can potentially afford it more, and people who don't have as much money, who may benefit more for their health, can't access it, which is a huge problem for us here, because it's kind of the inverse care kind of rule. The people who need it most have least access to it. Shortages are a significant issue, and I actually thought we were winning as far as changing the narrative here up to about 2 years ago. And then since medications have been short, there has been a huge upswing of stigma and bias where people are going to pharmacies and they're being told, you can't have that medication. It's licensed for diabetes. You don't deserve it. This is, you're just using it for your vanity project, where some of your diabetes really needs it because diabetes is a real medical problem, but you just need to eat less and move more. Like this is what patients are experiencing when they're going to pharmacies. And that might be after spending an hour with me talking through their whole history and coming up with a plan, and then they're going to the pharmacy and in 30 seconds they're just cut down at the knees. Like it's terrible, that it's happening. So the stigma is a major issue. As far as accessing treatment, like bariatric surgery is incredibly difficult to access here in the public system, which is kind of government funded. It takes about 4 to 6 years to get into the public clinic and maybe another year to get to surgery. In the private system, even if you have health insurance, it can be up to a year to get into the clinic, another 6 months to kind of get to surgery. So we have a huge issue with medical tourism, people going to Turkey or Latvia or different places.
I was going to say, I've seen that. A lot of Irish and
surgeries
from the UK going to Turkey,
And I suppose that's where kind of my little bit of a rant on TV. I wish it was MTV. It was Virgin Media, which is a different crowd. MTV makes me sound much cooler and hipper. If MTV even still exists, I don't know if it does, but anyway, I think I got in a bit of a rant as far as you can totally understand why people are seeking these treatments. Like they're desperate for them. They've spent their whole life being blamed and shamed, being told this is their fault, and all of a sudden they're finding out in social media, not through kind of their doctor or kind of often through kind of regular channels. They're finding out that these treatments are out there and they're desperate to use them. The problem is, they're maybe not getting the information they need. So we have issues now with kind of counterfeit medications that are being sent in over the internet. We've issues with people getting medications through social media channels, getting them sent from other countries. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know the quality. You don't know how they have been shipped and the kind of supply chain. We have people who are taking kind of lots of supplements, again, that are not evidence-based. We have people going abroad for surgery. And I suppose what really terrifies me, there's the issue of the quality of the product they're getting, whether there are impurities. We are starting to see some of the compounded stuff here that I think is a big problem in the States. We don't know the quality of some of that stuff and how it's been produced and things like that. The other issue is, I suppose there are people who are getting legitimate medication, but they're getting it from maybe a prescription service. So they're kind of, logging on and in 5 minutes they're getting a prescription for something. Yeah. And I suppose for me, when somebody comes and sees me, the service is not a prescription. The service is sharing an understanding about obesity, assessing that individual and kind of how excess weight is impacting on their life and on their health, because that's the target of treatment. I couldn't give a flying sugar how much somebody weighs or what their BMI is. I care about how their health is affected. And that's what I spend most of the time talking about. Because, if somebody, I have lots of patients who might be a bigger person, but they don't have metabolic or medical impairment of health. They may have some physical functional issues and they may have some psychological kind of impairment of health, but they don't have every single complication. I have other patients that might be relatively smaller who have every fucking complication that can go with it. So it's such a variable disease. It affects different people differently. Most people I meet don't come in worried about their A1C or their systolic blood pressure. People come in and they say, I can't keep up the kids. I can't walk into a normal shop and buy something in my size. My knees are sore, my back is sore. I'm having a hard time putting on my shoes and socks. I feel shit. I feel crap about myself, my body image, my sexual relationships. So it's the physical function and the psychological health and well-being. That's what I see every single day. Now, again, if you scratch the surface, they may or may not have medical or metabolic issues going on too. But what they're living with day to day is the stigma, the bias, the physical and psychological impact. And that's, again, I suppose the psychological impact is not inherently the weight itself. That's diet culture and society and misunderstanding. Yeah. But again, there's lots of effects weight is having on people that they're looking for treatment for. And that's why they're desperate to access these treatments. And whatever the kind of new thing that comes along is they're looking for. But unless it's accompanied by the right information, so unless people understand, that these medications, if we pick on that one, they're not the answer for everybody. There is no cure for the chronic disease of obesity. There's treatments, there's management. This is a lifelong chronic disease management. Yeah. So, it's not like taking an antibiotic where we're curing them. We're treating people to improve their health. That's what we're at. And this is going to be treatment for the rest of their life. Yeah. So it's I suppose when you're chatting to people, on one hand, you're telling them this is not their fault. This is, neurohormonal regulation of appetite. This is reward pathways in the brain. So my caveman in my head is shouting and roaring more than the guy next to me. He's hungrier. He's less satisfied. He wants the good shit and he wants it all the time. And when I'm tired and when I'm stressed and when I'm pissed off and when I can't keep my eyes on the road, that caveman gets his way. And if you have, the availability of ultra processed calorie dense foods that the caveman loves, my risk of struggling weight is much, much higher. So sure. I'm going to struggle. So that needs treatment. But unless people understand what we're treating, how we're treating them, that they will require lifelong treatment, that if somebody's on these medications, they should be, taking precautions not to become pregnant. They shouldn't be used during breastfeeding. These are the risks. These are the benefits. Mm-hmm. When you give smart people information, they make good choices. So my job is not to teach and tell people what to do. That the idea the doctor is the expert, that's dead. That's gone by the wayside. It should be gone. This is collaboration. This is talking to people. How are you affected? What would you consider doing? Would you be open to considering surgical treatment, a medication treatment, a life treatment? And then what's the right treatment for you at this point in your life? Because the right treatment for you in a year might be something totally different depending on what's going on in your life, depending on how you've responded to treatment. So really, you got to talk to people, So if somebody's just getting a prescription, that's not happening,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Time
true.
for a change, rooted.
Like the whole bit of it. And even you mentioned the psychological piece for sure. I mean, diet culture is a huge freaking problem here. And it is so ingrained. I mean, I was on my first diet at 8. It's always been a thing for me. And I still have to unwind that stuff in my head. The one thing I will say is I know some of the studies have shown that that these medications have helped people with anxiety. And I had I hit it really, really well, but I had debilitating obsessive anxiety. And I was just very good at masking and hiding how I was feeling. When I got to a certain level of these medications, it turned off like a switch. Mm-hmm. It was just over. And when I think about not going back, right? I don't think I can't go back to being heavy. That's not what I think about. I think about, I can't go back to being in pain and I can't go back to torturing myself. And I can't help but think that all of these things that I struggled with my whole life all came from this same dysfunction, that was just never treated. I just kept treating symptoms, right? I kept treating the symptoms of the weight and the symptoms of the mental health and all these different things. And then when I treated the biology of it, it seemed like everything started to align. And it's not I think there's this common misconception that you get on these medications and you just do whatever you want. The difference is for me, and we know many people in our community, is it's not, I do eat whatever I want. The difference is I really don't want that other stuff that I used to want before. Yeah. I just don't care. I don't have all of these emotions about food anymore. And I feel like that's what the normies seem to be able to have more control over, right? Is those things. But I don't go eat fried chicken. I don't eat a bunch of mac and cheese. If I do eat something, I just eat a little bit of it. And I never feel like I'm restricting myself. So when people talk about the easy way out, I think to myself, well, why not? The normal people can take that easy way. They have it naturally. Why can't I? But I don't think people just think that oh, you're just starving yourself or you're this and that. And I'm sure there are people that misuse the medication. I know that there are. We meet them all the time in TikTok and in our community. But I think for the most part, if people can consider that if you treat the disease, right, then all of these things for many people start to at least at bare minimum get in line to where they can be effectively treated. And I think the mental health piece that you're talking about. So we had on Dr. Rachel, who actually consulted for the movie The Whale. I don't know if you've seen that. It was pretty big in the States. And she consulted. She's a cognitive behavioral therapist. And we were talking about obesity and eating disorders. We can talk about that openly on YouTube. They actually promote when you're talking about eating disorders in a healthy way. So we can't do it on TikTok. But here we can. So she was helping us kind of understand, how all of that works, with making these different decisions and choices. And it seems to me, and I'd love for us to dig in with it. If you've got opinions, it's cool. And if you don't know, that's okay too. But it seems to me that it's almost again, all of that was a symptom. So Kat and I both struggle from binge eating disorder, or did. I no longer do. Again, off like a switch. I no longer have that problem. It's the freedom I've never had in my whole life. And of course, when that happens, you kind of want to be a GLP-1 evangelist forever, right? Because you've been tortured like forever. And then when it goes away, you just want more people to know about it. But even that in and of itself, like the control, I think that part's addictive more than anything else. I don't want to not be in control of my thoughts and choices anymore, you know?
Mhm.
So I was curious in general, when you were mentioning the piece about mental health, like what have you seen in that, aspect in terms of treating people with this disease? Has it been usually positive?
Yeah, see, you've said lots of really interesting stuff there. Lots of
Sorry.
stuff I could spend all day getting into. But like for me, I think it was kind of mentioned earlier. For me, it is the headspace, the brain space that people have when they are not at some part of their brain just kind of constantly. Most people I meet don't have an issue with hunger. They don't, they may have an issue with lack of fullness, but hunger is not an issue. But they often will tell me that they spend their whole day trying not to eat. They're restricting, depriving. I'm not hungry. I'm just trying not to eat. I'm trying to restrict and lower what I'm taking in today. And that's what they spend the whole time doing. And that's going on in the brain all the time. I'm at a meeting, I'm giving a presentation, but I'm aware there's something on that table, and I'm aware, what am I going to do kind of later on? And at some level of my brain, I'm trying not to eat all day long. Right. So when you treat somebody, and when their biology and their subconscious brain changes, that caveman shuts up. He's less hungry. He's not satisfied. And for me, I talk to people about kind of, I suppose, biological treatment versus life treatment. So for me, biological treatment, shutting up the caveman, that's medication, that's surgery. That's treating my hypothalamus. It's treating the underlying kind of dysregulation of appetite and hyperactive reward pathways. If we do that, like, it's so much easier for people to focus on the things in life that they enjoy, your relationship with food. It's not about restricting and depriving. I suppose it's like flicking a switch. It's not that I can't have it or shouldn't have it. I don't want it. I'm less hungry. I can eat something. I know it's not a disaster, because I know you mentioned the word control. You could also use the word freedom. That it's kind of, it just keeps me a little bit more between the kind of ditches, on the road. It makes it easier for me to live my life without all that other shit going on in my head, that constant noise, people talk about food noise, the constant kind of blame and shame. So for me, like, again, we know that people living with obesity, rates of depression are higher. A lot of people, and I think it's a bi-directional relationship that, if I struggle with my mental health, that's a risk factor for increasing my weight. If I've got an issue with excess weight or obesity, that can have an impact on my mental health as well. So, for me, like, excess weight or obesity is not the cause of or solution to all of the world's problems. It doesn't cause every medical problem, but it can contribute to a lot of them. So if I'm already struggling with my mood, my weight can have an impact on that. And if you treat people for the medical condition in the same way as if you treat depression, like, it just makes it easier for people to do the things they know they want to do. It gives them extra brain space. And again, we're obviously monitoring these things. You will never, certainly in my part of the world, you'll never see a positive article, a positive thing in the media about medications or bariatric surgery or weight management. You'll see kind of, articles coming out because 3 people in Iceland reported suicidal ideation when they were on these medications. Now, they are kind of people that's post-launch monitoring of the medications. And that's really important that that's looked at and monitored and observed. But we don't know what else was going on in those people's lives. Have they a history of depression? Have they a history of suicidal ideation? What else is going on? We know that they're more likely to have depression because they're living with obesity by virtue of the fact that they're being treated in the first place. But, like, we monitor for those things. And again, we know after bariatric surgery that rates of depression and rates of suicide are slightly higher than in the general population. Again, because I suppose people adjusting to living they're the same people, but they're living in a different body. And kind of realizing that, if my weight changes from here to here, life is not going to be sunshine and lollipops. Like,
you're still the same
the same shit in life is the same shit in life. The boss who's annoying me, he's still going to annoy me. The bill that's coming is still going to be coming. But at least I'm doing it perhaps with an improvement in my health. But, I think for people, and that's a huge part of what we do, is managing expectations as far as what people can expect when they're being treated. Because, I think people who come for weight management, they often have an expectation or a goal weight or a target. And it's kind of saying, look, let's park that for the moment and let's focus on treating you with the best available treatment. We haven't a clue where things are going to end up, but all we can do is support you and treat you the best way possible, But there can be a significant difference between where I will be with treatment and where I want to be or where I need to be for my health. So it's kind of managing that expectation gap is a huge part of this as well. So, any clinic or any doctor who's promising you or guaranteeing you X, Y, and Z, they're full of shit. Like, everybody is different. You treat people respond to treatment. The other thing, I'm on a total rant now, but the other thing that absolutely, I think, to use the term they use in Canada, grinds my gears is this idea of success with treatment, success or failure. Like, it's not success or failure. There is a response. Right. Somebody, God forbid, somebody has cancer and they go for chemotherapy. You don't have successful chemo or fail chemo. You have a response to chemotherapy, and it either treats your biology or it doesn't. So with obesity management, we're treating somebody and they will respond to that treatment or they won't. And it's not within their control, it's their biology. Either it addresses the pathways in their subconscious brain that is regulating their weight, and it facilitates them then managing other stuff in their life to facilitate weight coming down, or it won't. Because again, like, there's nothing more devastating to somebody when they come and see me and I'm seen as last chance saloon. Like, I'm you're my last resort doc. I'm coming in. I need this treatment. I've heard all about it on TikTok and I want to get the treatment. And then somebody doesn't respond and they're devastated because they say, oh yeah, another thing I failed. I failed all the diets and I failed this. They haven't failed. No person has ever failed a treatment. Treatment fails the person if it's the wrong treatment for them. And the problem is we don't have the right treatment for everybody. So this is, like, again, we need to share an understanding with people that everybody's different. If Mary over the fences is on a treatment, she's going to have one response. I'm genetically, physiologically different from her. I have had different experiences in my life that have contributed to my weight issues. So we can treat people with the best available, but we need to kind of share an understanding that there's no guarantees and they're going to be where they're going to be. And it's not, again, people will talk about like success if they get to whatever weight or a certain percentage of weight loss. Again, in my view, rubbish. Like, this is, if we talk about the definition of obesity is not a body mass index. It is not being a certain weight. It is excess or atypical adiposity or fatty cells that impairs health. Do I have excess adiposity? I mean, we can define that in different ways. Does it impair my health? Like, I'm not walking down the street here in Dublin, tapping people on the shoulders saying, come over here, I want to talk to you about a medication. Like, it's people whose health is affected. They come and talk to me and we talk about how we can improve their health. Because again, they might be, I might meet somebody who's living in a bigger body and they're quite a healthy person. They might have some issues going on. So it's not that they're not healthy, but I want to make them healthier because we can all be healthier.
Exactly.
Sorry, I don't even know
the analogy I use a lot about the biology part of it is that we're all playing on the same field, but we're all playing a different game. So like the field for us, like when we talk about it, like in our lives and like on the podcast, the field is the medication, right? Because most people that come to us are on the medication. They're not doing Weight Watchers or what, they've tried all those things already, right? So like the field is the medication, but we're all playing a different game on that field because we all have different biology. We all have different diagnosis. We all lived a different life, right? And so I appreciate you saying that so much because so many providers are they're just not breaking it down to people like that. Like success, the success that you may have might be different for Mary over the fence, right?
And again, for me, like it's a case of, so some people that come and see me, response for them maybe, and I'll keep banging on about that word response for them might be stopping further weight gain. Right. Response for them might be an improvement in their headspace, their psychological well-being. It might be improvement in their blood pressure, blood sugar. And again, if I've actually listened to them and listened to their story. So my first question to most patients I see, well, after I've asked them permission to talk about weight, to make sure it's okay with them. After I do that, the first question I ask them
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I think they look at me as if I'm
asking
stupid.
For permission.
Because they come to my clinic and obviously that's what they're there to talk about. But I think like we need to do that because again, certainly in primary care or in wider society, not everybody is in a headspace to talk about it. Not everybody wants to talk about it. So
not everybody's ready.
We give lip service to patient-centered care, but that's the definition of it. Putting the patient center, are you okay if we talk about this? And it's okay if you're not. Like that's perfectly fine. So anyway, if we get permission to talk about it, my first question to people is, do you feel that excess weight is having an impact on your life or on your health? And then you listen to what they say. Because I can't assume that it is, because again, what they say about assuming makes an ass out of you and me. So it's a case of, I want to know if it affects them, and if it does, how. Because that's what I'm treating. I'm treating that person. I'm not treating a number on the scales. You know?
Right.
Yeah. What we mentioned when you're speaking, when a doctor is asking for permission to speak about your weight, and I feel like, in my perspective, it made me think about this. Is I always called myself the plus size fitty. I was always into fitness, very, very heavy at 310 or 240. I ran a half marathon at 250, things of that nature. So the actual having the opportunity to speak with a doctor who asks for permission first was profound for me right now. So I've always struggled with doctors seeing me as somebody who worked very hard at her fitness, but it was always that number on the scale. Mm-hmm. And that's just profound. I wanted to thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. I do remember one time, Kat, when I went to like a physical and I was in my 20s, I totally understand. I never met this woman before. It was a new doctor. The first thing she said before hello was, "Your weight is a concern." It's the first thing she said. And even then I was young. I was in my 20s, you know, and even then, like, just like, it was, I get, like you mentioned, I think, you know, Dr. Crotty, you mentioned that a lot of times, you know, before we really knew, and obviously, like, I'm old now. So, you know, before we really knew that was how they treated it, it was a data point. It was the science that they had, but the lack of empathy to discuss what this meant to us. Like, I feel like they probably could have done better. And I hope more doctors are apologizing for that. We've seen it more and more, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. And I suppose because I've fallen into every hole there is to fall into. Like, I've been that guy. And if I met you 20 years ago, I could have been that guy.
It was you. I know it already.
For me, it's a case of like, nobody goes to work saying, "Do you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go to work today, and I'm going to belittle people. I'm going to be a nasty bastard to everybody." That's what I'm going to do.
Well, some people do, but
okay, well, you're going to the wrong people. But I think a lot of people, I think it's because of, you know, the lack of understanding, the lack of knowledge, the lack of awareness about the biology, the lack of awareness about the complexity of the biological, genetic factors, the environmental factors that influence weight. We're just mirroring what's going on in society. And that's where we're giving this kind of eat less, move more approach. And again, you know, many patients that I will have, you know, will have had, let's say they're seeing me, but in the past they might have had bariatric surgery, and they might be at a significantly lower weight than they were at before. But again, the first thing they're told is, you need to lose weight. And say, well, you know, you didn't see me before, doc. Like, it's a case of, and see how much my health has improved. Like, so again, that's the assumptions. That's, you know, when you see somebody like that, weight bias is making an assumption about a person, about their lifestyle, about their eating patterns, about their physical activity, about their intelligence, about their, personality based on their weight. And that's a huge issue. Like, we see in society, your likelihood of getting a job, your likelihood of getting promotion, the 100%. Pay gap that exists in the workplace, you know, the grades you're going to get in school are going to be different if you're living with obesity, if you're living in a bigger body. So there's a huge stigma and bias. And doctors, we are number one. We're number one on the list. Rebecca Poole, with you guys in the States, has done fabulous studies looking at weight bias and stigma. And doctors come out number one on the pile. Yeah. And again, it's ignorance, it's lack of understanding. I give a talk, I do a lot of, because I'm a GP by background, I give a lot of talk to GPs or family medicine doctors here in Ireland. And I gave a talk a couple of weekends ago, and you can see every time I give a talk, 50% of the crowd is smiling and nodding and kind of they're engaged and this is awesome. The other 50% are scowling at me, like they're literally bulldog chewing a wasp, like really kind of looking angry, ready to pounce. And I had one of those people, and they get very aggressive, like they're affronted by this medicalization of something that's a lifestyle factor, is what they would say. And you know, they would sit and I would talk for 40 minutes, and they've obviously not heard a fucking word I've said. Clearly. Because they come with these attitudes and these biases. And the thing for me is, I know I'm not going to convince everybody to appreciate obesity as a chronic disease. I'm not going to get them to understand people's lived experience if they haven't had that themselves. But I don't need them to. I just need them to park their bias at the door and treat people fairly and justly.
Yeah. So again, I think if people take a beat, right? Like, okay, I know I'm going to talk about this. I know how I feel. Maybe I should just if it's okay. Like, you know, like just the very slight.
I love that approach. I love that approach.
Like we do a lot of work in medical training here about parking bias. So whether it's bias about mental health, bias about stigmatized conditions like HIV or things like that. Like there's been like in the past, you know, stomach ulcers were seen as an issue with stress and kind of, you know, a weakness. Then we said, oh no, well actually there's bacteria in the stomach and there's all these things in our environment that have an influence. Now we've got a treatment that works, but it's no longer your fault if you've got a stomach ulcer. It's not that you're just kind of an anxious person. It's a medical condition. And again, mental health, where were we with that 20, 30 years ago as far as a medical condition? It's still somewhat stigmatized, but we've done a lot of work on that. So again, you know, people need to park their bias, treat people fairly. If they're not in a position to offer treatment, then offer them a referral. But again, back to that assumption, assuming that somebody who's living with obesity is not motivated because they haven't lost weight, or, you know, making them prove that they can lose X amount of weight before they can access a treatment, like all this kind of rubbish that's happening, like that's a huge issue. But again, like it's I would see it as, you know, these treatments, particularly the biological treatments, such as medication and surgery, they're an affront to people, particularly people who have no lived experience of excess weight. You're questioning their values about themselves because they feel, I don't have an issue with it because I'm motivated, I'm dedicated, I'm better. And you're saying, oh no, you just have different biology. Like you said, you're playing the same game, but you just got a different set of rules than I do. That's why you don't struggle. That's what I do. And if we treat this person, their rules will be more similar to you, and then they won't have as much of an issue. But that's an affront to people's ego because you're getting down to how they believe about themselves. You know, they believe I don't have an issue with my weight because I'm better, I'm stronger, I'm more dedicated, I have more control, more willpower. You don't. You've got different biology.
You know, one time I work in tech, and one time they have these like ways of building things, like ways of building products. And for a very long time, it was this method called waterfall, which actually turned out to be a hot mess and very slow and not able to move as technology started. So they created this new one called Agile Scrum. And I went and got trained on how to do this. And the first thing the guy said is when he was talking about this new way, like 50% of the people had their arms crossed like this.
Right.
Because they were PMPs or whatever, and they had spent years and hours and all these things of training. And he said, I know this is a lot, but I want you to uncross your arms and open your mind, and then we can have a discussion about how much better this is going to work. You know, and that made everybody go, like it was sort of like calling them on their shit. You know what I mean? And I think that in a way, doctors may need to hear that sometimes, you know, or clinicians in any way, you know, let's just consider, like one of the coolest things I ever heard you said was, it is literally like telling somebody with depression to cheer up, which is, we now know is insane. Like that's absolutely ridiculous and dismissive. And there's nothing that ever says that's okay, you know, yet we're doing the same thing with people who struggle with obesity, you know? So I loved that you said that. I wish more people would hear that. And you know what? They're gonna, hey guys, Dr. Crotty said that.
And again, you know, you pick up things I pick up most of the stuff I pick up is from patients I talk to. And most people say, you know, I know what to do. I just need to do it. You know, I just, you know, and it's a case of, and like every single patient, like, people that I see, I could lay out a table of food in front of them and say, listen, rank those now by calorie content, macro content, glycemic index, like how much your blood sugar is going to change, whatever. And they'd have no bother. Like they could write the book on dieting and restriction because they've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt.
Yes.
But again, that information about food is not a treatment. And I think that's the other thing that's missing in healthcare and society is the difference between prevention and treatment.
Yes.
So again, you know, regardless of our size, we should all be focusing on healthy eating. We should all be focusing on physical activity because that's just good for our health. We'll live longer, we'll feel better, and it has some value in preventing weight increase. But it's not a treatment for the chronic disease of obesity. If we're talking about treatments, we need to be talking about surgical treatments, medication treatments, life treatments. And we need to be kind of supporting people. And I think increasingly, as we get better biological treatments and better access to surgery and better access to medications and more powerful medications, I think the role of the life treatments, the nutrition interventions, the behavioral strategies, the role is changing. They're adjuncts, they're add-ons for health. They're going to make me feel better. They're going to help me get my kind of, you know, the right nutrition for my body. They're going to support me. but they're not treating the underlying disease. The
No.
medication is urgent and biological. The same way as I think when I'm communicating with doctors and with many people in clinic as well, it's a case of like, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just doing what we're doing for other chronic diseases like hypertension or like asthma. You know, you wouldn't tell somebody with asthma to just kind of, you know, stop coughing, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Right.
Just breathe.
You know,
Just breathe.
like if I'm seeing somebody for high blood pressure, absolutely I'm going to talk about salt intake and stress and sleep and physical activity. Won't stop me putting them on a blood pressure tablet if I don't want them to have a heart attack or stroke, if the life interventions aren't effective for them. So again, the same principle should apply. We just need to start applying that to the chronic disease of obesity.
You interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, geez, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast because obviously many of our listeners are going through the same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need. Today's episode is brought to you by Ro, a telehealth platform that's changing the game of GLP-1 access. What sets Ro apart? Ro understands the challenges of navigating insurance hurdles and the skyrocketing prices of GLP-1 medications. That's why they specialize in getting insurance approvals for GLP-1s. And if insurance is a barrier, they go a step further by prescribing brand name zepbound vials for prices close to those of compound GLP-1s. With Ro, you're not just getting a prescription, you're getting a partner in your journey that's helping you access affordable treatment and guiding you every step of the way. Whether it's insurance approvals or cost-effective alternatives, Ro is here to make sure that you get the medication you need. Visit ro.co/plussides with a Z today to see how they can help you take control of your weight management journey with affordable, accessible care. That's ro.co/plussides with a Z, making healthcare work for you. Check out the link in our show notes for more details.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity, related diseases and disorders, and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.